like in person. We're going to get to see them.
Hopefully. Good afternoon, everyone. Chris Berryman here, coalition builder and founder of Bringing Humanity Together. Welcome, everyone, to our Bringing Humanity Together live stream. You know what today is? It's Wonderful Wednesday. You know what that means? It is Conversation for Humanity. And then remember, this is one of the three open forums under the Bringing Humanity Together umbrella, where people can discuss topics related to the workplace and humanity in the workplace in a very positive and constructive way. We want to know what the issues that are out there that are facing people today, because it's our goal, our mission, our purpose, our calling here at Bringing Humanity Together to be working both with employers and employees to bring humanity back into the workforce. And remember, as always, we'll be going live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all at 3 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Feel free to invite your friends, your co-workers, family members, even those like lazy co-workers sitting beside you and saying, hey, you know what? It's Conversation for Humanity time. Time for me to say, hey, let's go. Yeah, watch. So, we even bring those fur babies with you to the call. We would love to also see great pictures of them, and we would love them to be a part of the website too as well. And remember, I'll be your host today. And every Tuesday, Sandy Chernoff hosts Sharon Killer with Sandy. I host every Wednesday Conversations for Humanity. And then every Thursday, Carlson Finnegan hosts Humanity Happy Hour. And as you jump on, whether it be on our LinkedIn Live, which is my personal profile, please look at the comment section, or in our Facebook business page in the comment section, or on our YouTube platform in the comment section. Please let us know where you're watching from. If you have any questions, topics, comments, or whatever that might be, please reach out to one of us, and one of us will respond back to you. And also like to have a one-on-one with you about not only today's call, but what really brought you into the live stream today. So if you watch the replay, always use the hashtag replay on all those platforms, then that will be greatly appreciated. Hello, Miss Cindy.
Hi, Chris. Looking forward to this. We always have fun.
That we do. And our two best friends, one's in the UK and one's in South Florida, they actually going to be on the call. In fact, it's going to be Graham and it's going to be Brian. And hopefully Brian will be on the call here shortly. We still wanting to try to get Graham on, but, we miss Graham. So, Graham, if you're watching, we would love to have you on. But today, what we'll be talking about today, ladies and gentlemen, it's about culture and leadership versus management. And it's kind of be a little bundle of all of that together. So that's what we'll be talking about today on the call. So, Sandy, your call yesterday about relationships was just off the charts. It was phenomenal.
Good. We enjoyed it. Well, we talked about a lot of aspects of it, Chris, and it's so important. It's so important in everybody's lives. If we don't have relationships with people, what kind of a life do you have?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it goes everywhere. It doesn't matter if it's your personal relationship, your business relationship. It doesn't really matter. It's all there.
That's right. Volunteerism, you've got to form relationships with the people that you work with as a volunteer. And, depending on what you do, you have customers and clients. You got to have a good relationship with them or they won't keep coming back.
That is true. That is true.
It's just a matter of figuring all that stuff out and how to do it.
So in the time that you've been doing a lot of your soft skills, and you really have said this many times on the call, soft skills are not really truly taught not only in schools or in organizations or even in vocational centers. What's the biggest joy that you've gotten out of it from a relationship standpoint when you have done those kind of workshops or lunch and learns? What's the biggest thing that you really said, oh, I'm so glad that I was here today?
Well, when people actually use this stuff and they see what the advantages are, Chris, and I get, feedback from them, it makes my day, because there's nothing better than helping people. It's why I went into dentistry to begin with. And now I'm just helping people in a different way with something that unfortunately doesn't seem to be that available. And it's just, I think I told you that I haven't been to some of the big law firms for a while, but when I used to go and I'd come back, a few months later, and a lot of the secretaries would come up to me, I've been using everything you told me, and boy, is it working, So it's just, there's no better feeling than when they've actually learned it and they've used it and they see what the advantage is, so they continue to use it. And again, these things very sadly are not taught. I don't know why. I really don't. Like I said yesterday, we're not taught how to listen. We're not taught how to do that. And everybody thinks they know how because they all have ears. But the truth is, there are lots of problems when you try to listen. And if you don't know what those problems are, you won't know how to overcome them. So it's, and that's why there's so much miscommunication and confusion and resentment and disappointment and all kinds of things that cause us stress and are completely unnecessary if people listen properly and if the speaker gets feedback, finds out what the people actually heard. Because if you have an expectation and they didn't really hear your message, you're not going to get what you want, which isn't going to make you happy. Right. So it's a matter of finding out. And like I've said before, don't ask someone if they understood you. That's the wrong question to ask. They're always going to say yes. Instead, ask them what you think. What do you think I expect of you? It's a very different kind of question. Then you'll find out if they actually heard your message, how they processed it, and if they come to the same conclusion that you're expecting. And if not, now you have the opportunity to make sure that they do. But you have to get feedback. Otherwise, unfortunately, we're not mind readers. So we don't know what's going on in somebody's head. So when you assume things, and I told you, you break up the word assume, makes an ass out of you and me. So there's just no point in assuming. It doesn't help us. Don't assume that just because you told someone something, you're going to get what you want, because it doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen. That's why you have to get the feedback. And that's what active listening is all about. And it's a matter of, that's why when I teach it, when I did it on Thursday, I had them pair up and they took turns being the speaker and the listener. And then we debriefed it. So how was it when you were the speaker? Did you shut up? When you were the listener, did you shut up and just listen to the speaker so that you could give them the feedback when they were done? And how did that make the speaker feel? And vice versa. So it was just a matter of letting them try it out. Hi, Dan. How are you?
Hello, Dan. How are you doing today, sir?
See you.
Very good.
We haven't seen you for a little while.
Yeah, I've been busy.
That's okay. You're allowed to be busy. It's quite all right.
Sometimes we can't avoid it. Sometimes we can. And just the way it falls sometimes. That's the nature of life.
Exactly. Yeah, Wednesday's my day, and I'm ready.
Good.
All right. Well, we're glad you're here. And just to let everybody know, Dan is going to be one of our professional coaches here at Bringing Humanity Together. He just really saw the opportunity and said, hey, I'm in. So we're welcoming Dan to our great and growing team and family that is Bringing Humanity Together. So if you guys have any questions or whatever, please, one of us would be more than happy to reach out to you and everything like that. So, Dan, what we'll be talking about today is culture and leadership versus management. So we kind of wrap those two in together today. And I'm glad I have two videos ready to go for us to piggyback on and talk about and everything. So that's what we'll be talking about today. So we're glad that you're here. So how was your week so far?
It's been good. Yeah, it's been a good week. No complaints. Everything's kind of running smooth, which is nice, as opposed to last week. But it's been pretty good.
That is good. That is good. That is good.
Ups and downs. Welcome to life.
Yeah, right. Ebbs and flows. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
How about you guys? How have you guys been?
Good.
Well, down here it's really nice. I just wish we had some rain though. But right now it's starting to be cool in the mornings, kind of hot somewhat in the mid afternoons. But other than that, it's beautiful weather out here in Florida.
Well, I could send you some rain, Chris.
Ah!
We had a lovely day yesterday. That's why the blind guys could come, because it was dry. They were supposed to come the previous Friday, and not only was it pouring on that Friday, but it was windy. So I phoned.
Wow.
I don't think the guys want to come. She said, no, I don't think so either. I said, okay, well, we need to set up another day. She said, okay, I'll phone you back. And then she checked the weather and she phoned me back. She said, Tuesday's going to be the best day next week. I said, good, have them come Tuesday. So yesterday was a lovely, nice, clear, sunny day. So, they didn't need to worry about water and wind and, all this kind of stuff. So it was safe, because I worry, they're up on the roof and they're on ladders and they're, doing all kinds of things. And I don't want them falling down. It's the last thing you want to see happening to these guys. And they're nice, they're young, so yesterday was a good day. Today it's raining again.
Well, this is what Brian just said. This is what Brian just said. It's perfect as always down in South Florida where he is. And this is what Graham just said is, do managers get a rough ride from employees when it comes to the workplace environment? Well, let's start the call off with that very question from Graham. To me, everyone has a part to play in that environment. Everyone has a part to play. It's not only how you show up into that environment, it's how others show up to you in the model of the world that they work under. And I recognize the fact that everyone's going to have a bad day, or they're going to be off kilter or whatever that might be. I recognize that and embrace that. So the way that I can do it is show up in the best way possible to others, so they can really know that I am going to create that environment that can probably come out of that transformation or point of engagement, whatever that might be. I'm going to do my best and do my part into that, because I recognize what will be there. So, hello, sir. I hope you'll join us here in just a minute. We would love to have you join us. Glad for you to be here. So, what's your thoughts on that, Dan, about do managers get a rough ride from employees when it comes to the workplace environment?
Yeah, I think they definitely do. I think, and I like the topic, right? Leadership versus management, because that's a big difference. but yeah, managers can get a really rough ride. I mean, there's so many dynamics that play into that. How was the previous manager before if it's not a new company, if you took over somebody's shoes, if it's a new company, if it's new people, if it's, different personalities. And I always think there's a temperature for the employees, and a lot of times the manager gets the bad end of that temperature, and that temperature could be hot before they step in, so there's so many dynamics to that. But yeah, I mean, I think it could be rough, and then it could be rough in the beginning, but then you take your time and you work with everybody and build your team. But yeah, I think in the beginning it could be rough.
Sandy?
Well, I think it depends on the manager. I think if they manage their people respectfully and they're encouraging and they're helpful in a lot of ways, then I don't think they'll get a rough ride. But a lot of managers blame other people for things that haven't worked out right, and there's finger pointing and blaming, and that kind of behavior doesn't enhance your relationship with the people that you're supposed to be helping. So it's a matter of how do they handle things. If somebody, and I've said this before, human beings are very imperfect creatures, which means that human beings are going to make mistakes. Mistakes, if they're handled appropriately, are opportunities to learn. But if a manager yells at you and finger points and blames you and all that kind of stuff, then the next time you make a mistake, you're going to cover it up because you don't want to go through what you went through last time. And usually that makes a bigger mess. But if instead the manager says, well, Dan, looks like we have a little problem here. Why don't you come into my office? Let's have a look at this. So what do you think happened that resulted in this outcome? Okay, so the next time you're faced with this kind of situation, what do you think you could do so that we don't end up with the outcome we have now? Okay, so now how should we fix this outcome? What do you think we should do? And you come up with things. And so, would you like me to make one other suggestion that maybe you could try? Okay, well, here's the thing. Why don't you go ahead and start fixing this up? And listen, if you run into any problems, you come back to me and I'll help you. Now, if the manager handles things in that way, where it's private and it's supportive and it's encouraging, the next time you have a problem, you're not going to feel bad about going to that manager. So it just depends on how they handle things. And managers who, finger point and blame and yell at people, especially in front of other people, it makes people very, very uncomfortable and embarrassed and all those kinds of things, because mistakes are going to be made. I mean, it just is what it is. And again, they are opportunities to learn, because you can have a look at, how did this happen? What can I do next time so it doesn't happen? And how can I fix what I caused? And that means that the person becomes accountable, own what they do, and they fix up the messes. And if that happens, then you learn. I mean, it's a matter. And managers who are vulnerable, in other words, when they screw up, because they make mistakes too, and they say to their team, I'm really sorry, guys, this was my mistake. I'm going to take care of it. This had nothing to do with anybody else. But some managers blame everybody else. They don't own their mistakes either. Well, that's just wrong. And again, you got to walk the walk. If you do what you expect other people to do, there's a far better chance that that's what they're going to do. But if you don't take responsibility, and even though you may want them to, then why would they? There's just not a good example. So it's a matter of how people handle things. Right. And again, this is not rocket science, but it's a matter of forming relationships and nurturing them and encouraging them and being respectful. Respect the people that you work with. If you do that, they're going to be comfortable. If they feel unappreciated and undervalued and everything, they're not going to work very well. You're going to end up with more and more mistakes.
Right.
And, that's just a pain in the neck. So it doesn't mean fix will never happen. But when they do, if they're handled in a supportive, encouraging, and helpful manner, then you'll probably have fewer of them. And next time something happens, they'll come to you and talk to you about it, because they felt that you were helpful. Otherwise, they're going to cover it up, and that turns into a bigger mess. So, it just depends. And some managers are good, and some managers are not. It just depends on what they know. And again, some people are put into that position, Dan, without any training. So they don't know what to do. Some people naturally are good at some of these things, but if people are not given training on how to deal with their team, a lot of times they screw up. They do things that are completely inappropriate, and then they're going to have a rough ride. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
So it's a matter, if you have somebody that you think is going to be a good manager, and just because someone is good at their job doesn't mean they're going to be a good manager. So it's a matter of, you have to have a managerial training program in your organization, that if you're putting people into that position, they need to know what to do.
Right.
So they need to be taught. So there needs to be training. Like some big companies, like probably McDonald's and some of these other places, they have managerial training programs. So when they put somebody in that position, they've already been trained and know what to do. But a lot of companies don't. And I know that because I've designed managerial training programs in quite a few companies. And so because they didn't have it and they were having trouble with their managers. So again, just because somebody's a good techie or, good at whatever they do, doesn't mean they're going to be a good manager. And techies in particular have very poor communication skills because they're very left brain. So it's a matter of understanding who you're dealing with. And if you have techies that you want to put into a managerial position, you better give them some training, because they need to know how to talk to people and they don't know how. So it's just a matter of figuring out what to do.
Well, exactly. So we got some great comments coming in right now through the chat, and we'll start off of what Brian just said to Graham. He says this: when was the last time that there was a conversation asking employees what they are doing to help their managers and leaders look good? What's your thoughts on that, Dan? Or do you want me to put it back up?
Yeah, if you don't mind. I'm sorry. I tried to
All right.
read it again. What was the last time there was a conversation asking employees what they are doing to help make their. When was the last time there was a conversation? Okay. Sure. I think that the question is leaning towards where's the input from the employee to the manager. I guess that's how I read that. Um, yeah, there's a good manager would have a lot of would want a lot of feedback from his employees, and that's really how you build a team. There's really no way to build a team without communication and delegation. You got to know who's with you, who's on your side, how their personalities, their work styles, the whole nine. Um, so I think that's important. When was the last time that an employee was asked about leadership? I mean, I think it should be done more. I think it should be done maybe a survey, a poll, something that could maybe leave anonymous. That way to a certain extent, and then maybe open the conversations when you have some good questions out of that anonymous group and and sit down and kind of talk about it. But yeah, that's a huge part of being a manager is knowing what your team thinks of you and knowing the questions they want to ask you, because you know in a perspective, I've always felt that if people could look at the next position in their hierarchy. So if you're an employee and your next position going upwards is an assistant manager or manager, you're going to want to look at that person in everything they do because they're being a mentor towards you. But and that could also make your decision if that's something you want to pursue is being a manager. Some people like being employees. So yeah, I think it's very important for them for
So
that to happen. The last time, in the companies that I've worked for, the company I work for now, it's a bigger corporation, and they're pretty good. Human resources is pretty good with a lot of information, a lot of surveys, a lot of polls, a lot of performance reviews, and inside that performance review, and typically those performance reviews are every quarter. Or every quarter, or maybe every half a year, but at least you would have one mid-year and full year, and a lot of times in those performance reviews, it's kind of a little bit more leaning towards things that you would want to ask your leader or manager or boss or organization. So those are helpful. I guess that's how I would approach that. Or the last time, I think it comes in more of a poll type situation survey.
Well, again, if the manager knows their people
Right.
and knows what potential they have in terms of their skills and their abilities, or even what they might like to be doing, then again, there's a far better chance. Hi, Carla. There's a far better chance that they're going to get more out of them. But if they haven't taken the time to talk to their people and get to know them, then they're not going to be very successful at dealing with them. Because you got to know how to deal with your people. You got to know what matters to them, what concerns them, maybe what they want to do. And if you could offer them jobs that are in their realm of what they want to do or what they want to develop for themselves, whatever, then they're going to be much happier. They're going to do a good job. But if you haven't found that out, you're just going to walk around in the dark and bang your head against the wall. Doesn't help.
No.
It's got to take time to do that. Very important for a manager to know their people, just like it is for a
It's
leader.
almost like every person is a puzzle piece that goes into the big picture, and you have to plug in the right people with the right positions, or if it's something that they might potentially want to learn, be open to help them with that.
Yeah, absolutely. but you got to know who they are and what they want to learn. Otherwise, you can't help them. So it's very important whether you're the leader or the manager. And there is a difference between leadership and managers. But managers, if you're managing a team, you've got to know your team members. Otherwise, you're not going to be very successful at managing them. And they're not going to be very happy with you either. So the team will not perform well.
Well, you'll end up managing them and not leading them if you don't know your people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, just telling people what to do and how to do it all the time. I'm sorry. Why don't you let people figure out how to do it themselves unless they have questions?
Oh, it lasts longer. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we got some great comments coming in with Sharon. Sharon, thank you so much for joining us today. I just sent you the link to join us on the live stream. If you can join us, that would be great. Brian, if you can join, that will be great. Thank you. There he is. Sharon, we would love for you to be on. And hopefully we'll just get back to Graham. So let's go back to Sharon's one that she just posted in the conversation. She said she was replying back to Brian. To my mind, it depends on the industry. A manager is responsible for providing guidance, ongoing training, invite honest feedback, be able to take it without taking it personally. Understand that it comes from a place where employees is at. Never raise your voice to employees. Managers need to be involved in an ongoing training program for themselves to improve their leadership. Since you replied to Brian onto that, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I very rarely have been in a situation professionally where people don't work in that capacity. Most people in professional corporations, big time corporations, global corporations, are professional and act that way. There are times where they get emotional and stuff, sure, but I mean, in my experience, yeah, I mean, in our company, we all act accordingly. It's called business acumen. It's professionalism. It's it's one of the things that I find interesting. And look, there's other types of organizations where it doesn't happen. My experience in academics proves that out, where they're not quite as professional. That happens. But in terms of a manager's responsibility or a leader's responsibility, yeah, they do so much, and you can give as much guidance as you want, but you have a job. You get paid to do a job. Do the job. If you want to blame someone else for not getting your job done, it's a you issue. You can blame all you want and say the manager or leader is mean to me. If the people who have those bumper stickers say mean people suck. Fine, but the point still remains that the job has to get done, regardless of whether you like it or don't, or how you're being treated or not. You still have a job to do. There are times where people aren't always professional. I mean, sometimes you work with a client who isn't nice or doesn't pay on time or, is difficult to deal with or is demanding or needs things. It's like, okay, well, you signed up for it. That's your responsibility. You either deal with it or you don't. And I guess one of the things, Chris, and this is where I was in the conversation with you and Graham earlier, is that after a while, having a conversation about blaming managers and leaders for the futile efforts of employees, after a while, it was just kind of tiring. Like, at some level, you're a big boy and a big girl. Stand up for yourself. You're an employee. You're getting paid to do a job. Do your good job. I can complain all I want that my clients don't return my emails or don't get back to me on time or aren't friendly on the phone sometimes. Well, okay, they're paying me to do a job. I either do the job or I don't. And if you don't do the job, they'll find someone else who does. And I just, after a while, it's a little kind of like, okay, is there anything else other than which point the fingers at a manager or a leader? Whether they're trained well or not, they're still the manager or leader. You deal with it or you don't. Like, and they're not relevant to your overall performance largely. Like, yeah, they can be rude and obnoxious, but I still have a job to do, whether they are mean, nice, or otherwise. Okay. You learn to deal with them. That's a you issue. That's not a them issue. Right? I mean, it's simple and easy to play results and to blame others for what it is. But at the same time, it's like, okay, why aren't we ever having a conversation where I'm the employee? It's my job to make them look good. Justify the hire. Right? I mean, we always want to say that they're not doing me a service, that they're not good for me as an employee. Okay? But how do I know that I'm being a good employee? Like, they did hire you, or someone hired you, and it's your job. I don't know. I guess I just look at it differently after a while. It's like, I can blame all the people I want. I blame people in academics, but as I've told you, I was the issue, not them, even though they are the issue. But ultimately, it was my, consideration. So, put it this way, Chris. Maybe one day we'll have a conversation where we stop looking outside of ourselves for the answers and expecting other people to tell us how to live our lives and work, and figure it out for ourselves.
I agree. So let's welcome Sharon Melende into the call. Thank you so much for joining us today. What's your thoughts so far? You've been engaged right from the start. I greatly appreciate that, Sharon.
Thank you. And I just want to address what Brian was just talking about. The part about making the managers look good, it's not my job. It's not your job to make me look good. It's not anybody's job to like me, love me, take care of me, support me. That's my job. And it applies to every single person. If I do my job well, which I do or did when I was still in the real estate industry working for a builder, and I'm in the top 1% sales of our whole area, and my manager, when we're in the quiet, we had a down period because of supply shortages. So we were twiddling our thumbs, literally. People were coming in because of COVID, et cetera, et cetera. You're making all your phone calls. That took an hour. And so the rest of the day, you have all this time on your hands. So I put forth a suggestion that they purchase a course off of Udemy, I think that's how you say it, on a public speaking course, and then share that out with us. The company itself had their own training, and they've been in business over 40 years. So it's the same training they started with 40 years ago. And I had worked for this company in Florida in 2003, and then again went to work for them in 2020, and the training was identical to what I learned in 2003 all the way up to here. Nothing wrong with it. It's solid basic training. However, you have to move up and get a little more current with the times, because way back when I got in real estate many years ago, we were still using those big books that you would open and look up addresses. Now you hop on a computer and you're looking it up on the MLS. So we've moved a long way and had to learn. So I put forth that we've had a good 2 months of virtually no activity. We weren't allowed to sell because we couldn't get caught up and blah, blah, blah. And nobody acted upon that. They were okay with us sitting, twiddling our thumbs, or bringing magazines or books in to read, or socializing with people in the community. And I do believe that at every level, there needs to be training, there needs to be interaction. Years and years ago, I worked many years ago for a mobile oil company, and I was a secretary, for lack of a better word, and they were going to build an oil refinery in Saudi Arabia. And the Saudi Arabian guy was in, and all the Americans were in, and every single day they met, and every single day they went over every single piece and nut and bolt and everything of this refinery and came up with 3 to 4 what ifs. What if that bolt fails? What's the next thing in place to keep it safe? There was such teamwork there. And I think that's a large missing component today. There's still an attitude of, it's not my job. Like, what's that famous chicken place now? What's that chicken place everybody loves? I mean, Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A, people like, oh, the service is
Chick-fil-A, yes.
fantastic. I mean,
Your hometown, Carla.
oh my gosh. I mean, Chick-fil-A, people are astounded because the service is so good. In my generation, my day, that was just an automatic thing. And that starts from the top down. In any store that we go to, if you're in a supermarket or wherever, there's a mindset about Walmart versus Publix, for example, or something else. We talk about expectations, which I don't like that word because I feel I set myself up for disappointment. But I notice I have an expectation of, I'm going to get this level of service in Walmart, probably a cashier that's going to be chomping on her gum and chit-chatting with somebody else or on their phone, versus Publix where, hi, did you find everything you needed? Have a nice day, carry your bags out. And again, starts at management, right? It's, for me, unacceptable that an employee is standing there chomping on gum or anything like that. But
you have a cashier at your Walmart?
Pardon?
You have a cashier at your Walmart?
Yeah, we do. They're changing though to that self-service thing. But it's the mindset and generational that has changed. And this group, if I'm under the right impression, are to unify things, to have us all on equal footing, nobody pointing the finger at the other, and yet have it all be smooth and peaceful. And in my experience, when people say they want peace, it's really peaceful thoughts that they want, peaceful thinking. And this is what I train in, is the only way we have peaceful thoughts is to question what we are believing. So right to me saying, I have an expectation of Walmart employees, and I would have to stop and say, what am I believing? Well, first of all, I'm making myself superior to them and making them inferior in my mind. So the question would be, if I go to Walmart and I stand in a cashier's line, she's inferior to me. Is that true? No, of course it's not. But when I break it down like that, I can clearly see it's me creating the story. It's me creating that reality. It's very real in here, and it's not true. And that's where I've seen it demonstrated that when we're able to slow ourselves down like that and think that clearly, be that present in our minds to find out if what we're believing and thinking is actually true. Never mind the real part, because it's definitely real in our minds, but is it true? People, there's all the different religions, all the different thoughts, all the different this, and every one of them are right, because that's the reality that we're creating with the stories going on in our mind. Are they true? Well, they're true to that person. It's only when we start forcing our thoughts and ideas on another where the conflict comes in. So, I live by this motto that there are 3 kinds of business. There's your business, and there's my business, and there's the divine's business. And I promise the only time we suffer is when we're in somebody else's business, even if it's just in our thoughts. We can be out in the store and you see somebody walking towards you and you think, what were they thinking when they put that on today? Have you ever done that? Right? We all have. Whose business is it what they wear or what we wear, right? And we do it constantly. Be in a restaurant and be like, oh my God, look at the way they're eating. That's their business. You don't like it? Don't look at it. That is their business. So, you're at home and your partner leaves their socks on the floor and it drives you crazy. Evidently, it doesn't bother them. If you don't like it, go pick up the socks, right? But we get bent out of shape with our thinking without even questioning. And we can have those peaceful thoughts and we can have that harmony if we would slow down, find out what our underlying beliefs really are, like me feeling superior to a cashier or making them in my mind inferior, etc. We do it unwittingly and unthinkingly, largely because we've been trained to do that. And we have been equally trained to look outside of ourselves rather than inside of ourselves for the love, the like, the approval, the appreciation. We will never find it outside of ourselves. If my husband tells me he loves me, that's icing on the cake, but I don't need his love for me to feel whole because I love myself. It's taken a long road to get to that point, but I actually do love myself now because I pulled up all those old beliefs that weren't true and I've questioned them. So in order to have harmony in the workplace, I truly believe it's a concerted effort of teamwork and not trying to convince one another I'm right, you're wrong, because as I said, we're all right in our mind, but let's look for the truth. Let's see what will really work and see if we can come up with an acceptable solution to everyone and have a backup solution for that as well. I'm done. I'm off my soapbox. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that great and engaging. Yeah. Thank you so much, Sharon, for that great and engaging viewpoint. I really love that. So what I want to do is go around the room and hopefully Daniel will get back on here in a second. And I want to get your thoughts on what Sharon just laid out for us. So I'll go and start with you, Carla. What's your thoughts?
Oh, so many things are going through my head. Why do you think people watching is so in? And, you know, people go to the airport and they watch people. And how many people have said, oh, I could watch these people all day long? Because we all have an opinion about, wow, why did they wear their pajamas to the airport, you know? Or you know, you go to church and you go, ooh, what was she thinking when she got dressed like that? You know, we've all done it, you know? I try not to, but sometimes the mother in me comes out from my mom who would go, ooh, look at that, you know? But you do have to look inside yourself and realize if it's, you know, like if your husband's socks are on the floor, obviously he doesn't care. And if they really bother me, I can go pick them up, but I don't have to, you know? I'm like Sharon. I spent a lot of time and I still spend a lot of time looking within me. And years ago, I've been in job situations where I've said, okay, if I don't like where I am and I don't care for management and I don't like their style, I don't like the way that they're treating people, I have an option. I have to either put up or shut up because nobody's going to care what I have to say or feel, and it's certainly going to bring everybody else down if every time I go into work I'm going to be complaining. And so that's where I think your emotional maturity has to come into play, that you have to say, okay, do I agree with this or not? Do I feel like they're doing the right thing? And I've had conversations with people years ago, some medical assistants that I've worked with that were just so negative and would just come right out and tell you what they did not like about the company. And the conversation was such that, you know, if you're really unhappy, is this really the best place for you? And they were like, well, what do you want to do? Quit my job? No, I'm not saying that at all. But look inside yourself and decide what you're happy with and what you're not. And if you're not happy and you're spending more time every day at work than you are at home and doing other things, then look at yourself. Of course, I'm not going to say, are you bringing your attitude to work every day? But like we've had this conversation before, we may think that the whole setup is just so negative, so completely wrong, but we're not taking a look at ourselves to see what we're bringing into it. Is it truly true? Or is, Brian said, something that we actually believe ourselves? This is not true at all.
May I comment to that, Carla? I'm fond of telling people that they are, or reminding people that they are the common denominator in every situation, which is basically what you're saying. You know, they are the common denominator. It's not outside of us ever.
Yeah, this, you know, there's so many people that are unhappy now in what they're doing. They're unhappy that they're, that they can't work from home, or they can't, they've got to go back into work or whatever. And they're quick to complain about it, but they won't do anything about it. And I always say, somebody's complaining to me, I'm thinking to myself, okay, now what? What are you going to do about it? You have a choice.
Sandy, your thoughts?
Well, I agree. I think that, people have to take care of themselves. And if they want to stay in a situation that's driving them crazy and that they're very unhappy about, they're going to probably end up sick down the road, because dealing with stress day in and day out is very harmful to the human body, and it can cause irreversible physiological damage.
Yep.
So it isn't really a good idea. And again, as adult human beings, we spend more time at work than we spend anywhere else. So if we hate our job, we hate our life. And that's not really a good way to go. I mean, Carla left a job where she was unhappy. And I also left a job when I had that horrible boss that, just yelled at everybody and so on and so forth. It's not fun to be in an environment like that. And as I said, fortunately, as a hygienist, it isn't difficult to find another job. So I didn't really have within 2 days, I had another job. But it's just a matter of people have to understand that you have to take care of you, because nobody else is going to do that. So if you're very unhappy with a situation, you either have to suck it up or remove yourself. And if there are things that you can do to make it easier to cope, so fine, do those things. But if you can't find a way to cope with something that's really horrible, then what you need to do is leave. I know that it's not an easy thing to do, and a lot of people have a very, very hard time doing that. But it's the only way to save yourself, because otherwise, seriously, you're going to end up sick. Mm-hmm. So you have to take care of yourself. I don't believe in staying in a situation that's so horrible. I really don't. I just think that it's a waste of your life. So that's the reason why I left that other job, even though I'd been there for a little while. I told you my brother kept phoning me and asking me why I was staying there. He'd already left. So, he said, you're helping them. Why are you staying there? I said, yeah, I know, I'm leaving. But it's just a matter of, what are you trying to do? And, it's just a matter of, you got to take care of you. Nobody else is going to do it. So if you're very unhappy, do something about it.
Yep.
Right.
And if you feel like the organization is not doing what is right, then you need to step up to the plate and stand by your principles. And if that means leaving, then you leave.
Yeah. Exactly.
And your thoughts?
You're on mute, Dan.
Unmute yourself, Dan.
Yep. Similar thoughts. There's really two options. If you're in an industry or a company that's treating you that way, it's, you can look at a situation in two ways. Is somebody oppressing you? Is your manager attacking you? Not attacking, oppressing you? Or kind of what Carla said, is your maturity level where it needs to be? So you either look at yourself and do something that may need to be done, or if it is oppressing you, then yes, you would have to leave. So I think that's really the two options, and it's either be accountable, and if your accountability is there and your principles are there and your values are there, but you have this oppression, then it's time to leave. Yeah, it's not worth it. Like Sandra said, it's just so bad for your health. It's irreversible. So
when some situations, it's a matter of how you are allowing somebody to treat you, and you have to set some boundaries and stand by what you feel is right. And if you need to walk, you need to walk.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sorry. That's a plan B is so important to anybody and everybody. You may love your job, but new management may come in a heartbeat. Next thing you know, it's completely turned around and against what you believe in. And if you don't have a backup plan, you feel like you're stuck.
So let's go to Brian, because he's got 3 great comments that we got to dive into before we go to our video. Brian, you said people and companies exist in different layers. We're all all the byproducts of other people's decisions. And then how do you get yourself to do something you are interested in doing? What's your thoughts on those?
Well, I mean, we all exist in different layers, right? I mean, not every company is the best in the industry, right? I mean, you might have one who's the top and then second, third, fourth, right? I mean, there are people who are bigger, faster, stronger, smarter, richer, poorer, right? I mean, not everyone is equal. I know we like to talk about equality, but the world isn't equal in that way. I mean, you go through the animal kingdom, there are some animals that are bigger, some that are smaller. So, I mean, it's, and I think companies exist on different layers. Not every company is the best company in that industry. Not every company is the best in the world, right? I mean, it always reminds me of the movie Elf when he walks into the coffee shop and says, world's best coffee, right? I mean, it's like everyone assumes they have the world's best of everything. And it's just not the case. And people are the same. We're on different layers. We have different educations, different backgrounds, different experiences. Not everybody has the same level of expertise on things. And then that's not a slight of anyone. It's just that people have different experiences, come from different places, and have had opportunities and things that, not everybody is born at the same time, right? I mean, you go back through history, people have had all different manner of experiences. So, in terms of layers, yeah, people just happen to be different. Companies are different. So if you look at it in terms of leadership or management, we're always trying to press upon a particular leadership theory or management theory or whatever is in vogue at that moment on every company. Like, leaders have to have these 7 traits. Based on who? Based on what? Based on every situation, right? I mean, being nice works in some situations, right? But being nice in other situations might have real detrimental effects, right? I mean, having a democratic, approach to making a decision might be good for, the small town community, but it might not work for like SEAL Team 6, who's going into like a real dangerous situation, and they have to ask every one member of their team what they should do. Time is of the essence. It might not work. So I think we're a little naive in that way. That look, and I've told you this many times, Chris. Leadership is very simple. It's what's needed and wanted at that moment, and people have to be able to adjust. Yeah, I mean, there are times where, you have to yell and scream to get your point across. There are other times where you have to do a lot of hand-holding and stroking of people's egos to make sure that they're happy. But that's not all the time. In terms of products, I mean, our lives are basically, until you start to recognize it, most people live their life based on decisions that other people have made for you. Parents, friends, guidance counselors, teachers, society, right? I mean, what you're taught as right or wrong comes from the sensibilities of your parents, their parents, their parents, society. That doesn't mean that what's right and wrong still fits the model for what's right and wrong today, right? I mean, it's the old adage. I always find it funny. It's like, people look at people and they're like, they don't look like a CEO. Right? I mean, you were told that. Remember, you don't sound like a CEO. Well, what does that mean? Well, it's based on their decision or their byproduct of someone else's ideas of what a CEO looks like. Right? I mean, there isn't really what it looks like. I have no idea. So yeah, we're very largely living the lives of other people. We don't recognize that we do. We think it's ours, but it's not. And how do you get yourself to do something that you don't otherwise want to do? I think it speaks to the level of commitment that you have. I mean, you have a job, certain aspects of your job that you're not going to like. That doesn't mean you have the authority in your job, unless you're the owner of it, to say, I don't want to do it. You're in sales. I don't want to make phone calls.
Good luck with that.
I'm patience today. I'm a pilot. I don't feel like flying an airplane today. how do you get yourself to do things that you don't want to do? Like, yeah, I mean, what's your level of commitment really in a job? Like, what have you committed to doing, and are you able to put aside your crap, for lack of a better term, to just get it done? Well, that's kind of it.
Well, thank you so much, Ryan, for your insight yet again. You're just a great wealth of knowledge, and we're bringing value each and every single time you join us. But here's a video that I really love about culture, and we're going to play it. And she is, you will see in here, she is the co-founder of a company called Stoked. So we'll hear from her, and like I said, it was just a real great.
Writing's not that easy, but Grammarly can help. This
video.
sentence
So here
is grammatically correct.
To go, I got to skip the ad.
So when you say the word culture,
all right. So back up a little second, and so here it is. This is why work culture is important, from the co-founder of Stoked.
So when you say the word culture, what do you mean when you say culture? One of the first things that comes to mind is in an environment where there is deep trust. And one of the elements of creating trust is vulnerability, and creating an environment where vulnerability is not just a dirty word, but something that team members embrace. Having a vulnerable workplace is actually one where people trust each other wholeheartedly. And with that trust, you can do bigger work. So one of the people who I think we both consider a work hero is Dr. Brené Brown. And one of her quotes that just rings in my ear is that you can choose courage or you can choose comfort, but you can't have both. And so what kind of an environment do you want to create? Healthy environments are ones where people feel connected to themselves. They feel connected to their team members, and they feel connected to their end user. And creating an environment where deep connection can happen in all three of those areas is one where innovation thrives. And as you scale, you're able to bring people in a way that feels really healthy, and then they're able to connect into your mission and your user and one another. When you look at an organization has its set of beliefs and behaviors. And so part of creating a healthy environment is taking the time to reflect on what the organization beliefs are, and then mapping that to, is that what we want? Is that really what we believe? Are those our values? And if they're not, then how do we move toward the values that we want from where we are? And then on the back end, to actually have measurement in place to see if this is where we want to go, then are we getting there? Just a gut feel isn't enough. It's important to actually track it and then course correct. If you're not hitting the mark, then we need to do something differently. Just like anything that matters, it requires attention. And you can choose how you want to pay attention to something like your culture. There are lots of different approaches. As long as you're paying attention to it and you're being intentional about creating something that you want, then you're on the right track. The problem comes when you're not paying attention and it is evolving in a way that can, down the road, cause problems.
Now, isn't that amazing? And I found that on LinkedIn. So I will start with Sharon, then I'll go to Brian and work around the room because he just put something in the chat. So, Sharon, what was your thought by seeing that video?
I was paying attention to what Brian was writing. I'm so sorry. I was formulating my answer to him. I'm so sorry.
So just start with Brian's comment. Go from there.
According to what you said, I just took it to be along the lines of what I said. It involves everybody. And everybody has their own mindset. At the same time, when you're in a company together, you want to become one mind wherever possible and if possible. That's why companies have their mission statements. And so the individual, the president has his own mission statement, but the company has a mission statement too. And the goal of that is all the employees are supposedly to have the mindset of fulfilling and living that company's mission statement. And that's what that reminded me of. We still are individuals, but we have that same end goal in mind. I want to represent the company in the way they intend the company to be represented. That's why I've come on board with you, kind of thing. That's it.
Ryan, you gotta speak up, man. I love that little tidbit you gave us.
Well, it's kind of explanatory. I mean, trust is a space in which you create for someone else. And if it's something that you have to earn, it's like me asking you, you have to do something in order to, and then I'll trust you. Like, it's a bit wonky. Like, the truth is, like, you're trustworthy because I give you my trust, not because you actually do something. And I'm not saying you can't lose trust. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm just saying that it's like I need the lotto number before I play the lotto in order to play the lotto. I need you to do something before you do something so that I can trust you. It's like, no, like I either trust you or I don't trust you. Like, we give it to other people. It's not earned. And I think secondarily, or even more importantly, we don't do it to ourselves. See, we don't give ourselves trust. Like, imagine if you went through life actually trusting yourself.
Yes.
And I've had this conversation with people for quite a while in other realms. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you took a lesson in trust or practiced trust?
Wow.
See,
that's a good one.
It's a skill that you can develop, but we already have it. It's like concentration. You have it. You're born with it. It's not something that you lose. You can't lose concentration. There's no such thing. So with trusting yourself, have you ever practiced building your capacity to trust yourself? And it's kind of interesting because if you look at people who go and practice stuff in their life, and I'm not saying not to practice, I'm just saying if you look at the nature of practice, whether it be public speaking, whether it be dance, whether it be writing, whether it be any sport, typically the way people practice stuff, inherently, they distrust what they already have. Because if they trusted what they had, they wouldn't practice it. They would trust that what they have is good enough. But since we don't, we practice it in hopes to become better, even though what we're actually doing is building up a memory bank of distrusting ourselves. Because what we're doing is fixing, changing, manipulating, adding, subtracting, all the wonderful things that we do, right? Putting it up against some erroneous model to say this is what we're supposed to do. And then we expect ourselves to go out and perform ourselves with freedom, ease, and grace. Right? So it's like, I'm going to go be a public speaker. And I'm going to practice my public speaking because I don't think I'm good enough at it now. And I'm going to build up this entire hour or two of changing, manipulating, fixing my speech, and then expect myself to go out on stage and be calm, cool, and collected. It doesn't work that way. It's kind of illogical. But again, that's another conversation of learning development and, things. But yeah, trust is given and granted. It's like respect.
Sharon, I love that. Oh man, that's amazing. Quitting Toastmasters.
That's funny. That's like, where were you when I was in high school and I had to do public speaking and hated it?
Your thoughts, Carla?
I love that she's quitting Toastmasters. Yeah, I had never thought about always having, trust was something that I gave away and not something to be earned. But, when I think about it and think of different situations, like after I was divorced the first time and was a single parent for 10 years and went through some bad relationships and then happened to meet my husband, without even looking, because I'd given up on dating. When I look at it now, it was not a matter of him earning my trust, but through time and through his actions, like Brian said, I actually gave my trust away to him and allowed him to be more into my life, so to speak. But it was something that I had control over all along.
Sandy?
Well, I think in some cases, and I guess it sort of depends on how things work. In some cases, trust is earned because if somebody is reliable and they do what they say and they're accountable for what they do, then you can trust them. And I think if you trust yourself because you know that you are intentional and that you are going to do what you're planning to do and so on and so forth, then you can trust yourself. It's, again, it's not necessarily that hard. But I do disagree with you on one thing, Brian. I think that in some situations with things that we do, if we want to get better, we have to work at it. So it means we might have to practice it or, get somebody else's opinion on what they think, how we're doing it or whatever. But otherwise, I think that, again, if you trust yourself to get things done and to do them well, because that's sort of how you are, then I don't think there's a problem. I think that, you just move forward and you do what you do. And in that way, you can be happy, especially if you are accomplishing the things that you are trying to accomplish. So it is a matter of having an intention and being motivated to fulfill those intentions, whatever they may be. And I think when you do that, you can trust yourself. It's, you just know that you're going to do it because that's what you want to do. People who don't move forward and don't do anything probably don't have much of a life because they never push themselves or they never, try anything. And, it's like that woman said, you can have courage or you can have comfort.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
If you don't have courage, that means that, you don't try anything. You just stay behind that line that everybody draws in the sand. A lot of people don't like to step over that line because it's scary. But I think the only way you move forward is if you step over that line. So it's a matter of how are you going to move forward? And you have to step over the line if you're going to move forward. So, and I think if you do that often enough, you can trust yourself to know that, yep, I can step over that line because I want to move forward and this is what I want to do. So I'm going to do it. And, that's what it boils down to when you're in a bad situation. You can either stay there and be unhappy, or you can pull up your socks and go, I'm not dealing with this anymore. I'm sorry. I'm out of here. I am done. Because life is too short not to enjoy it. And if you're in a bad relationship or a bad job, why would you stay there? Why would you continue to be unhappy? Again, life is too short. You should be having fun. You should enjoy your life. And if you're not doing that, you're missing it.
I can see both sides, Candy, in that when I'm working with someone and they do what they say they're going to do, and stand up, beat deadlines or whatever, or help other people out. I look at it as not that I trust them. It's to me, I can depend on them. And I see that the word depend and trust are being interchanged.
Yeah.
To a certain degree.
So I can say, and I can see where Brian's coming from, the having trust. It was something that for us to give away, not something to be earned.
Dan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know how what thoughts I have, because I've always thought of trust as a thing you've earned, but I'm glad that this conversation is kind of to looking at it from a different perspective, and I don't know, I don't really have much to say. Just thinking about it, really.
Nice.
Because I always look at like trust as like this really deep thing, like you would have with your best friends or your, parents or siblings or something like that. And I guess that's like a trust that they're, got your back no matter what kind of thing. But I don't know. I guess that's earned. I mean, you wouldn't be giving somebody that responsibility, but yeah, I'm just mulling it over. It's a great topic conversation. So
Well, see, this is what I've learned from Brian so much. Is in any given conversation or opportunity, there's three things that we all can do. Number one, we can seek to understand it, see where it's at, where it goes, or whatever, ask questions, whatever the case may be. Number two, we can literally buy into what's happening or what people are saying to us at any given time in the conversation. We can literally leap right into that and do that. But then number three, we have the choice as as we will actually do when we go into buy into something. We also have that choice to not buy into anything at any given time. But what we can do on all 3 points, though, is be respectful for the conversation, respectful of the opportunity, and just let it be. If you just let it be there just for what it is, you don't try to add, subtract it, or try to take away from it, whatever that might be, I dare to say you can get a point of transformation that comes out of that. And that's truly powerful. And once you allow that to occur and everyone sees that, I mean, what can we not do or not achieve in our lives, not only from a place of leadership, but also from a place of culture that are interconnected. And it's there. And I truly believe in that.
Well, Chris, it's what Sharon had talked about earlier of, how you interact with people in many ways that, we all have a formed opinion or perception or, interpretation of a situation or circumstance or a person. But that's our creation. It's not necessarily their creation.
Correct.
Right? And they have an opinion or an interpretation of us, which might be different from our own interpretation of ourselves. But the point is that it's that distorted filtering that we do, from listening to looking at someone to just looking at a situation. It's what I explained. It's that it's the collapsing of what happened versus what we say happened. They're two distinct things, and they're not one and the same. But we make them one and the same, and it's what we say about what happens is where all the problem comes from, not what happens. So it's what we say about another person or a situation that leads to the upset, unhappiness, disconnectedness, whatever you want to call it, not the actual situation. Because if it was the situation, everyone in that same situation would have the same reaction. But since they don't, it can't be the situation.
Right.
It has to be our interpretation of it. So, yeah, the context or the perception is really more invaluable than knowing what's being said. What's being said is wholly irrelevant, largely. As I've told you, people have never actually been insulted in their life.
That's true too.
Until
I
I
learned
say,
that from you, sir.
Chris, I'm about to insult you, and then you're now officially insulted. But what you consider an insult is just a perceived, definition of a word that we've assigned meaning to. But that doesn't make it insulting.
Right. So let's start off with Sharon and give us a little tidbit of why you said you wanted to leave Toastmasters, and then what will be your call to action, and we'll go around the room for the call to actions. So go, Sharon. You have the floor.
I was just being a smartass about quitting Toastmasters because Brian said something that triggered that thought about going to perfect speech kind of thing. I thought, well, I'm going to, I speak well. I believe I do. I want to do a TEDx talk. And I thought that Toastmasters, since they have criteria, might get me on that platform. However, that would mean I give a damn about what other people think about me. And then that means I don't clearly understand. I have no control over anybody else's perception, right? So anyhow, what was the second part of your question?
What will be your call to action on today's call?
Oh, to just kick back and not take life so seriously.
I love it.
That's good.
Yeah.
That is good. I like that.
Or take myself seriously either. I think that's rule number 62. If you look that up online, I think that's what it says is don't take yourself so damn seriously.
Nice. I love that. Ryan, your call to action, sir.
Call to action is that, here's a challenge as a call to action. Can you create an empowering context for yourself and others no matter what?
Ooh. He will lead the call next week and ask that very question to us next Wednesday. There you go. There's the challenge. I like that. Carla?
My call to action would be to, because I like what Brian said about just look at how you're contributing to the culture of your organization or the situation you're in, a volunteer situation, whatever, any encounters. And like Brian said, if nobody else is having the same negative thought that you're having, maybe you're the negativity. So look at that and see what maybe you need to change something about yourself.
Sandy?
I just think that people should continue to move forward, that they should take care of themselves and try to enjoy their lives and step over that line in the sand, because otherwise you miss opportunities and you never move forward. And I think, you have to grab some courage from time to time to be able to move forward. And I think people that don't miss things, they miss opportunities and, they might miss things in their life. So I always think that it's a good idea to step over that line. I mean, I've never stood behind the line, but anyway, it's just, just a matter of who you are. But I always encouraged my kids to do that too, because otherwise you miss opportunities. So it's good to continue to move forward, to learn and to advance yourself and so on and so forth. And then, you know what, you will be able to trust yourself because you know that you intentionally like to learn things and move forward. And that's the best way to be. We should never stop learning.
That is right. Dan, your thoughts? Call to action?
Yeah, my thoughts is this week is, just to look at things in a different perspective. I like some of the questions we had about, how do you get yourself to do something that you aren't interested in doing? I thought that was very good. The trust question was very good. And just to be open-minded or to explore different points of view. And then also, really that quote about the courage, you choose courage or comfort, drawing a line in the sand. And basically that call to action to me is more of a principles or values things. I guess, it's really about that too. But yeah, just culture and just some deeper thinking. Yeah.
Well, here's my call to action. It's simply this, not only from a leadership perspective, but also from a culture perspective. It's number one, show up every day. Just show up how you are every day in every way. Lead with your humanity, give others that opportunity to lead with their humanity, and also give people the opportunity to express their humanity in their own unique way. Create that, again, I love this so much. Create that environment that will create better results. And we can all do that not only from a place of leadership, but also from a place of partnership. Because I don't really believe in the term employees. Because if you truly invested in people, the best investment is the human investment. So they become your partners because they invest in you, you invest in them, and that ROI will go far and wide if you allow that to occur. So just simply show up and just do the right thing because it's the right thing to do because you can't go wrong with right. And that would be my thing. So, Brian, I'm going to hold you to that challenge. You're going to lead the call next week, and you're going to come back and ask us that very question, sir.
If my schedule allows it, I will be here.
That will be great. That'll be great. So again, thank you everyone for joining us today. And Graham, thank you for the great and engaging conversations too as well. I know we're still going to try to get you on. It's going to be a little time, but that's okay. And Sarah, thank you also for joining us today. We really appreciate you. We miss you. Hopefully the grandson's doing well and everything. But again, Sharon, thank you so much for joining us today. We are so humbled and honored that you wanted to join us in today. And hopefully we'll get that meet and greet done on a longer timeline that will help you to hear from Sandy, Carla, and Dan and myself of what we're building here. And we would like to have the opportunity with you because what you saw in that post in that group that I did, it really spoke to you. And that's why I reached out, and I'm so thankful and honored by that.
Thank you for having me, all of you. It's been a pleasure meeting you.
Yep. All righty. So again, everyone, remember Humanity Happy Hour is going to be tomorrow. And I think what Carla's going to do is wrap everything up in a big bow about relationships, leadership, and culture. And she's going to tie it all together tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a good evening.
All right. Have a good one, everyone. Have a great day.